welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. I'm your host, Alex Theuma, CEO founder at SaaStock. Delighted to be joined today by Stefan Smulders, who is the CEO, co-founder of Expandi. Actually, I think you're now the CSO, right? The Chief Strategy Officer. So I got the intro slightly wrong there, but you were the CEO. You're now the CSO. So we will talk about that in a minute. But Stefan, thanks for coming on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and a blast to finally be a guest in your show, as a super fan of what you're doing.
Excellent. No, well, great to have you on the podcast. Whereabouts are you at the moment, Stefan?
Yeah, in the Netherlands, in the southern part of the Netherlands.
Okay, very nice. And is that where your office is, or that's where you're living?
Yeah, that's where I'm living, and today I'm working remote from the home office.
Okay, very cool, very cool. I see the nice comfortable chair there. I need to get something for myself. Getting a bit of backache these days, so I need to invest in that. But Stefan, I think we met last summer at a SaaS conference, not called SaaStock. But then you spoke at SaaStock, and actually, well, I think even around that time last summer, you joined the SaaStock founder membership, which we'll speak about later. But I think in effect, we've known each other less than a year, and I've seen obviously the great growth of your business. So we'll cover a little bit of that journey of your bootstrapping to 7.5 million ARR in less than 3 years. But first, let's start with just a little bit about you as a person. So who is Stefan Smulders?
Stefan, as I just mentioned, is 39 years old. I live in the Netherlands, actually, my whole life. I have a lovely wife and son. He's 6 years. I like to spend a lot of family time in the weekends, go to football, and have some fun with my family aside all the long days and hard working as a founder of a fast growing bootstrap company.
Very cool. Yeah, from my conversations with you, I can see that you're a proud dad of the next Lionel Messi.
Seems that there is some potential to spend some attention on. So let's see how that moves forward. But it's definitely in the stage that I keep on dreaming. So,
well, maybe you heard it here first, listeners. Just follow the name Smulders, and maybe in 15 years we might see him wearing the orange jersey of the Netherlands. But we'll see. And you're the founder or co-founder of Expandi. Is Expandi your first or second or third company?
To be fully transparent, Alex, it looks like an overnight success. And all the things you mentioned, they are 100% true, but it at least took me 8 years of failures, of lessons learned, came up with an idea a long time ago, just after I finished my school, took 500k VC money based on an idea. I did not have anything on paper. I burned 500k by hiring developers together with my current co-founder, Glenn, and we were totally running out of money before we launched the product. That was the first lesson I learned the hard way. Secondly, as a growth marketer and with a marketing background, I was kind of always triggered on, let's say, if 100 people visit your website, that only 2 or 3 take action, fill in a form, take contact, leave their details. So that triggers me to design, together with one of my current co-founders, Glenn, an IP tracking software, let's say 7 years ago. It was in the early stage. It was quite advanced. We were one of the first ones who provided liquid content, dynamic pages based on IP. The only thing we did not cover that well was a proper database. So we only worked with a local database, found out after that we pushed it towards 1,000 subscriptions as a side hustle, that people, it was more nice to have software for them. So they liked actually what we've built, but they still are fighting on what's the best way to follow up. I saw some strange things happen. They picked up the phone, they called to the reception. Hey Alex, it's Stefan here. I saw maybe per accident some of your colleagues visited my website. Can you forward me to them? And they all say, I have no clue what you're talking about. And then they start blaming me as a provider. And again, that repeating question triggered me to find ways to do acquisition on a much more modern way. So I jumped on LinkedIn, let's say 4.5 years ago, as kind of a newbie. I had 143 connections at that time point. I never ever used it up until then for commercial purposes. So I started to spend all my time to build out sequences, to learn from the pros out there. I watched a lot of YouTube videos about lead gen on LinkedIn, and within 3 months it became my #1 lead channel. So I thought, let's be clever and document the playbooks I execute on my own profile. I took on some complaining customers from my previous software, as they all wanted to have appointments, so I optimized their profiles. And that was the beginning of a started, let's say, lead gen agency done for you, where I provided a help to C-level decision makers to take over their LinkedIn and book appointments for them using my own playbooks. After managing 5 customers, 2 left hands, and 1 Excel sheet, I was running totally out of time. And I thought, let's be clever and try to search for some tools which can repeat automate some repetitive tasks on LinkedIn. So I tried actually all the tools out there. 99% of them was Chrome extended, designed with very intelligent features, but all for single users. As a growth marketer, I always wanted to run A/B test, run multiple campaigns. So at some point, I needed to open 80 browser sessions to manage 10 accounts. And as my wife was calling me for dinner in the evening, I needed to close all these automations and all these browser sessions. So somehow, out of frustration, I stuck, and I shared these frustrations with Glenn. And Glenn told me, a guy who never touched LinkedIn, let's build the thing ourselves. Let's make it way more intelligent, cloud-based, designed for people like you who want to manage other people's profiles. And that was a bit of the birth of Expandi. We made our first GitHub registration, let's say, beginning February 2019, after pivoting and promising that it would be ready to test within 3 months. All these things took way longer. We launched it on the global market 15 November 2019. So let's say 3 and a bit more years ago right now. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing the story there. And quite a common path where I guess kind of like SaaS founders that we've spoken to on the podcast, have started out with a service, an agency, and see that, they're doing a lot of manual tasks, and then, look to provide a SaaS-based solution to improve the efficiency of doing those tasks. So good to see the route that you took there. A quick question. So 8 years of failures, you sort of mentioned. How do you find the will, or to kind of like keep going on?
Yeah.
Like at what point do either you say to yourself, or does your wife say to you, "Hey, Stefan, time to get a proper job"? Or
I know my wife now for more than 8 years, and she always mentioned you can talk really, really well. That's maybe how I got her, but
yeah.
I also start talking about bigger dreams since day one, and it took really indeed a while before things took off. And the good thing at the end is that she never left me. Even in the beginning, when we had moments when I did not even have $50 to spend on a week for food for the both of us. But after Expandi took off really well, and I needed to make, let's say, more than 17 hours a day to work in different time zones to cover all these demos, and she was actually never complaining. She gave me the space at the moment to also travel a lot, to visit different states, to do keynotes, to meet other founders. So yeah, I'm very thankful for a very supportive wife who actually set her own things aside to support my journey.
Very cool, very cool. I think everybody needs, a strong supportive partner, especially if you're a founder. It's not easy on both sides of the relationship, right? It does cause a little bit of stress and tension at times. So Expandi 2019, we've launched the SaaS product, born out of the services sort of agency. Now fast forward to we are 2023, March 2023. how big is the company? I guess it's not just you and Glenn now.
No, we grow a bit.
Yeah. Are you bootstrapped? Yeah, just kind of like any data that you can share.
Yeah, sure.
Revenue,
I
metrics.
happy to share all the metrics is available in terms of people. We started actually locally in Eindhoven with just a handful of people working on the project and some contractors. At the moment, we have with us 3 as a founders in total 43 colleagues working for Expandi. 99% of all these people working remote from actually across different countries and mainly Europe. So we have people in London, we have people in Netherlands, we have a second office in Lithuania. We also have a lot of colleagues with Bulgarian roots. Some of them live there, some of them live in the Netherlands as they studied here on university and decided to stay. We have a lot of colleagues coming from Ukraine. We actually have a very warm bond with Ukraine since day one. My wife is coming from Ukraine originally. We start working with a lot of contractors from Ukraine and now and partners. And I think 13, 14 colleagues are have a Ukrainian background. Some of them live in Georgia and in Poland. So they moved out when the war started. And unfortunately, some of them were not able. So I think we have at the moment 7 colleagues who still live in Ukraine.
And why did you decide to do a remote business? I guess, I mean, looking at the timelines there, 2019, just before COVID, were you thinking about building this business out of the Netherlands?
No.
No, it's always remote from day one.
No, yeah, we were actually not even. Definitely not thinking about changing towards a remote company. Then indeed COVID kicked in. In the Netherlands, it was at that time point not allowed to work from office spaces, and they strongly recommended everyone to work from home. So that became kind of a new culture. And in a later stage, when we needed to hire, as we maybe grow in the beginning too fast, we did not develop the team. We did not gain more knowledge in the team with different types of people. So we were actually with all very young, talented people, which were able to work hard, like a fish in the water in a startup environment, but we did not have experience in the company. And in a later stage, it was way more easier for us to find people outside of the Netherlands. So it happens kind of organically.
Gotcha. And so I want to jump into this fast growth as a bootstrapper, which, in terms of the numbers, that we've spoken about, I think you got to 7.5 million in, about 2.5 years, or just, it was under 3 years. And I don't know, the ARR has changed, which I'll speak about as well. But so that's fast growth. I think you got to, I saw 4 million in 14 months, if that's correct. So we want to unpick this a little bit, because as for a bootstrap company, this is fantastic growth, right? And it takes a lot of bootstrappers much longer to get to their first million, to get to their first 4, to get to the first 7. So we want to learn from you. How have you done it? And what's the secrets to your success? So I guess kind of first of all, let's start with, and I think, maybe I know the answer here, but getting your first customers. Were your first customers those that came from the agency that you were doing the work for manually, that you sold them then here's the SaaS tool to help you?
Yeah, I thought when Glenn mentioned in the beginning of February 2019, within 3 months you have a proper working beta version to play around with. I was doing a lot of preparations, and I knew from experience that, as I just mentioned, from that Lead Express software, which I sort of called a nice to have software, I thought all these users of similar softwares, they all like that software, but they most likely all also challenged with what's intelligent ways to follow up. So I started to do preparations and use a tool like BuildWith, and I filled in there all the tracking scripts. If you leverage an IP tracking software, you need to put in code on your website so they can count all the registration and measure all the things going on. So I just started to scrape all companies in the Netherlands who are leveraging a similar software from a Dutch competitor. And I prepared all these lists, and I start approaching them with our Expandi to test it, to prove them that this type of outreach should work. And we booked at least 40 appointments a week together with one of our first colleagues, Sharon. And we found out at that time point that it took us 20 minutes to convince they confirmed that they need to find better ways, but they were not that active on LinkedIn. So that took us 20 minutes to convince them that LinkedIn is the platform, the go-to platform to use. Secondly, it costed at least 20 minutes to convince them that automation was on top of that the best way. And after 1 week, they came back that they had no clue what to send. But we gained that way 315 beta users who start playing around with our software. And the learnings from there was that we analyzed the situation and we decided if we really want to scale this, it will take way too many efforts. It's the wrong audiences as they are not familiar with LinkedIn. So the conclusion was we need to find somehow a way to launch it global. The second challenge on top of that was that we had no money, not even a single dollar to spend on a traditional paid marketing. So we needed to find a hack to gain at least a 50K to prepare on global launch to rent kind of an office. So what we did is that we approached all these, let's say 300 beta users with an annual offer, which they could pay up front. And we should help them with building sequences from our agency experiences. And let's say 60 of them took advantage of that. And that's the way how we gained our first 50K. And we used that to work from an office, our first office. We are still there. As we are remote, we are not using it that much. But aside of that, we could prepare a global launch with a bit more traction. Everybody's asking me what you did after that. So the findings were kind of that was not the right audiences. And I thought we need to find audiences who are already in love with LinkedIn, who are using LinkedIn automation on a daily basis. So it were actually Stefan's agency owners. So we were focusing more on the growth marketers who are managing multiple accounts, and agency owners who provided a lead gen service or a recruitment service. And most of them were managing tons from 20 to hundreds of LinkedIn accounts. I exactly knew what their pain points were, and the struggles and the fights I had with these softwares were exactly the same as the challenges they face. So we started to prepare playbooks where we did a breakdown of the best performing strategies executed with Expandi, kind of a hacks we called it. And then we spent a lot of attention on distributing these playbooks in communities, in areas where we were thinking these agencies and growth marketers should are, let's say, indie hackers, growth hacker websites, growth hack communities on Facebook. 3-4 years ago, Facebook was a huge platform for people who want to engage with others in groups. And we did the same on LinkedIn. We leveraged my LinkedIn profile to use a strategy with an engagement pod and get a lot of traction on an engaging post, and then ask people to leave a comment, and then we send over the guide automatically with Expandi. So that were kind of the strategies we leveraged in the beginning. And then everybody's asking me kind of as a second question, can it be the case that these things help you to grow to such a number so super fast? Fully transparently, I'm not the world's most intelligent marketer. I'm not a genius. I actually took very simple advantage of the 3 things happening in this kind of a gray niche where we are operating. And to see it the right way, what we are doing, it's not illegal, it's not forbidden by law, but somehow it's against LinkedIn's terms and policy. And 4 years ago, there was a huge buzz around safety. Especially all our US friends want to leverage these automation tools because they can make faster business, save a lot of time, make more money. And on the other hand, nobody wants to lose their profiles. And at some point, some Chrome extended tools, they were sort of catched by LinkedIn. And it took them a while to come back on the platform. Some people lost their profiles. And I think at the end, it was just a handful of people. But the buzz was so huge that it looked like hundreds of thousands of people were losing their profiles. So I thought, if that's actually the most important thing for people to have a safe profile, then I just pronounced Expandi as world's safest tool out there. And I kept pronouncing it, and without a joke, the first couple of months, of course, Glenn did a great job in building and very intelligent architecture and infrastructure. But the first couple of months, I was just begging and praying, please let it did not fall apart. And I kept screaming and screaming. And at some point, people start believe you. So that gave us really a lot of traction. Secondly, in this particular niche, all these providers at that time point, they were sort of hiding themselves for LinkedIn. It was quite hard to find out who's actually the company behind these tools. You could not even talk with the founder, not even in a call. You had no clue about these things. So most likely they were just scared for Bill Gates that he should come someday, spank them and crack these tools down. And I simply thought, he will find me anyway if I hide myself or not. So let's just do exactly the opposite. Use myself as the face of the brand, and run all these calls, these demo calls in the beginning myself, share my experiences. I was a previous agency owner as well. I exactly knew what your pain points were. And I was, for example, running in the first 4 months after launching Expandi, more than 700 demo calls to just experience why are these people considering us or compare us against established names. And I could use all this input for marketing purposes in a later stage. And I think third, very important, everybody was just screaming, come use our tool, then we 10x your results. And you saw on these websites, these huge slogans, 10x here and 10x there. But nobody was walking the talk. So what I mean, nobody was explaining what you exactly need to do to get these 10x results on LinkedIn. So we started with our own team to leverage our own tool Expandi and design the most intelligent, out-of-the-box plays strategies. And the most successful ones, we took them apart, broke them down into playbooks with the how, the why, how we connected the dots, what results it gave us, what messages, what templates we got, with proofs, screenshots, everything in it, from appointments booked, replies on the messaging. And the only thing we did was distributing in these specific communities as much as we could, all manually. These playbooks, they were not even SEO optimized. We had no expertise in our team from somebody who could leverage SEO. So it was a lot of manual work, upvoting on growth hackers, on indie hackers, fake accounts to create more upvotes and all these kind of crazy things. But these three things combined, I think that feels for me like, okay, that was really the golden formula in this niche with this product, as it was already an oversaturated market with tons of providers who could do a trick on LinkedIn, which brought us all that success. And afterwards, that was kind of confirmed. There's a lot of our competitors, they changed approach, looked at what we did and tried to adopt it the same way. But we were kind of the inventors in this sort of a gray niche to do things fully different than up until then.
Great. Three things that you did there, or I guess kind of like pillars of your strategic growth. Doing all the right things there. I think you nailed your ICP, in terms of it being the agency. You had the beta customers that were kind of already using the product, the early evangelists, I guess, that you managed to kind of like sell to help you get the capital to grow, using yourself as using your tool to get the customers, but using yourself as that figurehead, on LinkedIn, doing the content marketing as well. And on the figurehead thing, so as you mentioned, like your competitors, I don't know if they are now, but they certainly weren't, 18 months ago. It was very difficult to find out who are these tools that were doing what you did. And we've had that experience where we work with an agency where they have some people in the Philippines and they're using a tool and they were doing this outreach on LinkedIn, and I tried to find out what the tool was, but I couldn't.
Okay.
find out what the tool was. So this was like 18, I didn't mention this to you, but this was like 18, 20 months ago, something like that.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's kind of strange, but I guess to say it's not illegal, but because they're fearful of LinkedIn, like people are not being, as public. So you went the opposite way to be public. And getting to my point, so with you being public in the face of the product, you did actually get booted off LinkedIn for a little bit, right? Now, is it because LinkedIn didn't like Expandi and you know what you're doing, or what was the reason? And you're reinstated now. You're back on LinkedIn. How did you get back in?
Yeah, I was leveraging my profile in the early days to get a lot of traction. And I was designing kind of a giveaway post, and we're publicly talking about LinkedIn automation. Somehow my posts got each and every time at that time point 100k plus views, thousands of people who were engaging with it, commenting on it. And I think after 8 posts, LinkedIn thought, who's this crazy motherfucker? He's just talking about automation on our platform. This needs to stop. Who he's thinking that he is. So from one on the other day, they just removed and closed my profile out of respect, as I, from a strategical perspective, I had expect that they should do it, only not that soon. So I did a step back. I accepted the situation, but it felt in the beginning same like, for example, a coder without a laptop. You're missing just an arm or something, as it was one of my main channels to use. And it took actually a while to get used to the fact that I did not have a profile myself anymore. I never tried to ask it back. So I was just focusing on other channels, and we used other colleagues' profiles, but did it do not that obvious anymore on LinkedIn itself, as they sent us in the early days a letter per email about this situation, and they friendly asked me to remove Expandi from disconnect Expandi from their platform, as we were doing mass scraping, mass this, mass that. And we were at 25k MRR dollars at that time point. So the only thing I thought, if they just ask me friendly to remove it, then they at least can not find Expandi technically. So let's go double down on growing it even more faster. Then 2 weeks later, COVID kicked in. So it felt it was a weird month. But yeah, we managed to took advantage of COVID. Everybody was working remote, needed to book appointments. So more people were leveraging such kind of tools to book these appointments and use it for lead gen or outsource it towards a lead gen agency. So yeah, we took really off during COVID, and 6 months after launch, we reached 1 million run rate. I think it was in end of May 2020. And 2 months later, or 3 months later in August, we hit a 2 million run rate, and we closed the year at 3.1, sort of. We grow indeed super fast to 4 million in 14 months. If I look back now, we kept growing up until 5 million. Then we reached the plateau. And that was sort of a new situation. We were 3 founders which never managed a growing company in a scaling phase. But what we did not spend attention to, first of all, we had a very small team. Second, I was not engaging with other people, with other founders. I actually had literally no clue how we were doing in comparing to other SaaS companies. It really sounds as a joke right now, but at some point, people ask me, how's Expandi doing? I share these numbers. They all say to me, it's impossible for a Dutch bootstrap company. And then I just shared my Stripe account and showed these results. And some of them recommended me to write a story about it, just to inspire other founders, just all the things that did not took off with Lead Express, then how I came with ID and what we exactly did to grow it. So we wrote our first founder story, and that's the article you refer to. Mm-hmm. We got so many traction from that article. I got invited for a lot of podcast interviews. I met Nathan due to that. We got approached by a lot of VCs, private equities. Everybody wanted something from us. And it really felt so sort of blessed on the one side, and on the other side, what we need to do with it. After that, not long after that, LinkedIn made so many changes on the platform to avoid spam that they reduced actions people could do. We needed to adjust our whole tool, find new ways to help people leverage LinkedIn. It was a whole transition. Fully transparent, at some point in 2021, we were making 300k net profit each month, and I really felt depressive. And I think I thought about quitting, stopping, and I think it's just and simply because I had actually no idea how to move the company forward from that point. I did not spoke to other founders. I did not share my challenges, my struggles. So I did a step back. I also understood I have kind of a golden egg here in my hands, which I need to bring over the finish to because it felt like a lifetime opportunity. So I made a target list of let's say 30 people. 20 of them were Dutch successful SaaS founders which were ahead of me or had an exit or such sort of things. And the other 10 were mainly directors or board members from Dutch VC companies. I prepared a presentation just to share my story and the worries I had. And I planned all these conversations in October 2021. The conclusion of that, they were just all laughing at me. What, you're making problems, you make so much money. Just go hire people. Just go hire people. Just hire people for the things you do not like or you're not able to do. That helped me to actually look in the mirror, to just see I'm more early stage startup founder with the growth hack mentality. I don't measure things. I can't manage people. I can't work in processes. I actually can't even set up a process. And that are actually the things which you need to do from 5 million on to grow to let's say 20. So I slowly understood that I needed to bring in other types of people in our company. People who walk the talk with experiences, who could lead by example, who could level up our own employees. And before we did that, I started engaging with a woman who's still helping us as a founders to think about things like what's the company values, what's the entity before we started to hire, what's the culture fit, how people need to behave, what we want, what we expect. So she forced us, together with my two co-founders, to think about all these things, and it was a lot of hustle, struggle, but we managed to accomplish it. And from that moment on last year, we could seriously start hiring people, other types of people with experiences. That caused us at some point also challenges, as it scared a lot of young people from the early days. They were scared for their jobs, but at the end, it was just our intention to help them level up and share experiences with them. But 5 of them in the same month, they decided to leave the company. So all our product knowledge in August 2022 was gone. We faced challenges with learning new people, fast pace, about a product which grow and extend with more features and things. So a couple of times we definitely had challenges during our road. And if you ask me now what was more challenging for myself, working, let's say, a year without getting any payment in an early stage startup to just launch the product, or scale it from 5 from that moment on and restructure the organization, I definitely should say that second part where we are in right now. And to come back or to make the bridge towards the question you asked in the beginning, that's also the main reason why I stepped a bit more out of operations and try to fulfill a role where I can be as much value with the qualities I have, and that's more in building out the brand, being the brand ambassador, talk to potential partners, talk to interesting people, try to gain and attract clever people to work in our company. And that fits more within sort of strategical CSO role. So that was actually the main reason behind. I'm just not good enough anymore to manage it. Yeah.
And are you enjoying the new role?
Yeah, sometimes it's emotionally hard. We're traveling a lot to be separated from your family. I think you face the same. But on the other hand, it feels really great to be on stage, to share things, to meet new people, to build out a company that way, to try to find interesting people to work with. So I feel way more comfortable than doing this, although I'm separated from my family, than working in operations or trying to build out the process.
Yeah, no, that is probably the hardest. Like, I do have a family, so it's probably a moot point. If I didn't, I would probably be traveling a lot more.
No.
But yeah, like last week, and we were both away in New York at Nathan Latker's SaaS Open event, and I was away for it's like 6 days maybe, and definitely one of my kids missed me a lot. The other one, she's just a bit more, I don't know, understanding of these things. But I think for one of my kids, it was quite a struggle with me being away, and that makes it sort of like quite tough. Even obviously, I'm working out there, but it means that you kind of have to pick and choose the moments for sure, and the events and opportunities that you have, to take advantage of. I'm going to move into conscious of time, Stefan. So I'm going to move into the quick-ish fire round. So, what one thing has moved the needle the most for you in your career?
Never gave up actually, because a lot of failures before this journey to take off, and I think being consistent. I don't have that much skills, but you can always count on me. I'm always there. I can do and repeat things each and every day the same. So I think that's kind of a skill which brought me to where I am today.
Very cool. I mean, I love the never give up mantra or attitude. I think it's something every founder needs, and so it's a great job on that. What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice: go hire people. As I was scared to do it somehow, and it was all new for us. But if I really felt dumped now beside all these people in the company call, as they are way more clever than me, and they also solving things faster. So it's kind of a relief. And yeah, I should definitely say that's the best advice.
Yeah, hire people, replace yourself.
Yeah.
Biggest failure you've made and lesson learned?
Yeah, I recently shared it on LinkedIn as well. We have 2 revenue streams, and one of them is related to resellers. That we have a reseller model for agencies who are managing multiple accounts. As the amount of profiles they manage fluctuates each month, we decided in the early days to make a decision to just invoice them afterwards. And with the best intentions, we send it then on the 1st of the next month, the invoice. Some of them did not pay. We did not spend that much attention to it, and I checked in. Yeah, sure, we're gonna pay. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that, and it ended lately in a loss of 500k of past due invoices, which I don't expect will get paid. So that's, I think, the hardest lesson. Maybe too much trust in people, no proper systems in place, and at that time point, not able to overthink consequences that could happen. So that's definitely the most painful lesson, mistake sort of I made.
Definitely sounds like it's painful. What about the hardest thing about bootstrapping a startup in 2023? The second part to that question, and it can just be a quick yes, no. Will you ever take VC money? So hardest thing about bootstrapping a startup, and will you ever take VC money?
The hardest thing about bootstrapping is be able to change really quick and try to keep everything lean. Also on the financial side, the balance in between is hard. Would we ever take VC money? You never know. We really want to reach 10 million on our own, and with the help of your great community this year. That's we all focus on that. I promised the team, together with my co-founders, to take them all to Dubai if we hit it this year, with an over-the-top weekend, supercars, yachts, everything if we reach it. So after that, we did not thought that much for it, to be honest.
Now, just a couple of final questions. So you joined the SaaStock founder membership last year. Tell us a little bit about why you joined that.
First of all, not because we are in a call, but I was already quite impressed with all the things you're doing for the European startup and founder community with the great SaaStock events. Then I found out about the opportunity to be part of SFM, the SaaStock founder membership. And as I earlier mentioned, I was really fighting myself, struggling, feeling depressed sometimes as a lonely wolf. So it was an eye-opener to be able to share my story. And although my story looks like an overnight success, I just gave a couple of examples with things I also fighting with. Mm-hmm. And to be able to share that with other founders which have a similar journeys, that only that is already the best reason to become part of the SaaStock community. And on top of that, engaging with people on live events, be able to meet each other in person, like we did last week. Yeah, it's something you need, especially as most of us worked sort of remote. Yeah, that's definitely something. Yeah, you just need to do. Yeah. And these peer groups are very valuable. The people you bring in on a monthly basis to share their stories, to get all of us inspired. It's phenomenal job you're doing here, and I'm pretty sure that due to all the help you guys providing, we will hit our goals this year.
We hope so, and we're glad to have such founders as yourself as part of the SaaStock founder membership, and hope to recruit many more like yourself and see you guys get to 10 million ARR with a bit of support from your other founders, but also us at SaaStock as well. Last question, Stefan. Where can people find you and Expandi online? I mean, imagine LinkedIn, but...
Yeah, I'm back on LinkedIn, so that's a good reason to re-engage with me, just on my name, Stefan Smulders. Although for the ones who are more active on Twitter, I'm quite active there as well. I think it started with the last name Smulders Stefan, pushing out tons of content about strategies, growth hacks, tactics, tips on how to leverage LinkedIn in 2023. So that's sort of the main channel for the ones who want to know more about outreach on LinkedIn. I should strongly recommend to visit our blog on expandi.io/blog, where we drop the most actual and valuable strategies for everyone who wants to do a better job on LinkedIn.
Very cool. Well, Stefan Smulders, or Smulders Stefan, thanks for being a great guest on the SaaS Revolution Show. Really good to see you again. I know in an hour or so, we've got a SaaStock founder membership workshop with the Adam Hale, who's the former CEO of FairSale, which sold to Sage. So that should be good. It's about success in a recession. So I think whether this is only for SaaS founders, but I think one everybody should tune into. But great stuff, Stefan. Thanks so much. We will speak soon. I'll see you soon. And great to have you on the podcast.
100%. Really enjoyed and looking forward to the episode. So it came out.